Hi guys. Okay. This is going to be on knife safety. This is a topic I should have covered. I know I've covered it in the past, but it's been a while. And so I wanted to kind of update and let's talk a little bit about it. Now, carrying your knife, let's start with that. Keeping your knife sharp and honed is the biggest asset you can do for this, because a sharp knife cuts clean, cuts easy, and doesn't want to roll, bind, etc. That causes you to load up with power trying to make it do it. And that causes slips and injuries. Okay? So we want to reduce that. So keep your knife in your sheath unless you're actively going to be using it. Don't lay it down a lot, because that's a big indicator of I'm going to step on it, fall on it, put my elbow on it, something. See? Stabbing it into the log in front of you to move around is not a great idea either, because you could damage the tip or it could glance off. So again, if you're going to be using it, take it out of the sheath. If I'm done with it, even for just a minute, slide it back in the sheath. Or transfer it to the other hand so I can move around and transfer it back. Okay? But we're going to be using our knife, so we're going to take the knife out. Now, how big an area do I need to use this? If I can touch it, it's too close. Give yourself plenty of room around you. If you've got a bush or something right here that's going to interfere where you're doing your bit, it could be bumped into your face, you could hook it with something. There's always that possibility. Likewise, a dangler or some sort of lanyard on it should not be long enough to cause me trouble. Now, I like a short lanyard like this where I can put a finger or two through it so I can choke up on the knife like that for chopping on something really soft and light like vines. That's what I like that for, but it's not so long, and I can double it up under the grip like that so it's completely eliminated if it might be something that's going to hang me up. Okay? Now, select your piece of wood you're going to be using, and here's the thing I see more than anything else in someone that's starting to carve. And we're going to start off with something simple like a tent stake or something like that. People tend to start with a piece of wood too small because they're expecting, well, my tent stake is only going to be that long. Okay, that's fine. But in doing so, how do I turn around and go in the opposite direction? See, if it's only that long, when I turn around backwards, it may be too short for me to push away from me and force me to have to cut back to me. That's a bad thing. I want to cut away from me whenever possible. Okay? Now, if I'm going to be up here in the air, so to speak, carving, I want to put my elbows tight into my chest like that. That way I can't bring the knife back to me. I want to slide the length of the blade so that it slices away from me, rather than trying to push straight like a 1-inch piece right there straight across. I want to slice away from it so it's sliding the full length. So that edge is cutting it, slicing it as it goes. There's a lot less effort slicing than there is trying to push straight through. And we're trying to keep our hands from getting tired. So we're just going to cut away from us. Now notice I'm up here in the air. Notice my elbows are tucked in. I hook and I push away from me. So there's that flick there at the end is going away from me. Okay? For the chest lever, let me take my glasses out of my pocket right quick. For the chest lever, I'm not going to use my arm, I'm going to use my back. Now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to hook it, and I'm going to use my back muscles to pull the wood away, hold the knife still. I'm going to hook right there, and I'm going to pull away. Now notice I'm not going to get up here in my face. I'm going to put it down here at my chest, down here safe, put my hand against me, where that can't come in. My thumb's in the way, it can't come in and get me. And then I'm going to put the wood between me and it. And I'm going to pull the wood using my back muscles, because see, that knife can't go anywhere. Just like that. It holds it stationary almost. That way I can get a lot of power because I'm using my back muscles to pull instead of my wrist muscles. Also, I can come up here and take my hand and take my thumb and push away from me so that I'm kind of doing this motion with my wrist as I'm pushing with my thumb away from me, and get a control cut, something small where I'm trying to do detail. That's going away from me, and I'm again not getting that big jump every time. Now, let's talk about the triangle of death down here. The groin and the inside of the thighs has some big arteries very close to the surface. So it's very easy for a wound in this area to bleed very rapidly and very badly. So we want to avoid it. There's a reason they call it the triangle of death, back in the groin area. To avoid that, I don't want to do this, because what happens if that tip of that knife goes into my thigh? I bear down and go whack, and it lays my thigh open, see? It's too easy to, well, I start out like this, but then you keep bringing your knees in because you got to put more and more power to it. And you're focused on this, not the fact I just brought my knees in, and now my knee or my thigh is in the slice area, see? If you want to do something in here, you put your forearms onto your knees and do this and cut away from it. You do not cut inside the triangle. By putting my forearms down on my knees like this, my thighs, I cannot cut myself. That knife is not going to come back this way. And I can do detail or power cuts away from me like this. Still got the same power, but I'm not doing this where that knife could whip and cut me. Same thing, hooking my hand around my knee and sit here and again draw the work. I anchor that knife and then I pull. Again, I'm leaning that point back toward me so that it's a slicing motion. I should be slicing, and you'll notice when it goes from being so hard to kind of easy, that's because you're slicing. Notice how as I'm doing it, that knife flicks forward, see? I load up my muscles by pulling, and when it does slice, it's like a spring going, because that's your muscle tension up here. Hook your hand like that. You can also go over the side where you put this up on your, put your hand on top of your thigh and cut away from you like this. Again, that slicing motion to cut away. That way I'm not in the triangle, I'm on the outside over here. If I did somehow, God knows how, cut the outside of my thigh, it's much less likely to hit something vital like an artery, because that's on the outside of the leg. So I want to hold it away. Better yet, I want to stiffen my arm out and come out here and do this. Stiff arm, lock your elbow straight into you and pull the wood toward you, away from you, like that, see? So that I'm sharpening, but at the same time, I'm not coming anywhere near me with that tip. Now, I've made it down to almost a point. Now I want to do detail. I want to get really sharp on this. So that's when I do this, and I come up here, and that's where I take my thumb, remember? And I'm going to put my thumb on the back of the blade, and I'm going to choke up higher onto the blade itself, put my thumb on the back of the blade. And that way I can lever it and get very precise, little smooth, slow cuts right there to sharpen it like a pencil. Believe it or not, this was how I was taught to sharpen a pencil in school when I was a kid in school, and we were allowed to carry pocket knives, and the classroom I was in did not have a pencil sharpener that worked. And the teacher asked me, did I have a pocket knife? And I said, yes ma'am. She said, well, you can sharpen your pencil with your pocket knife. So I went over to the trash can, sat down in the little chair, and did this and sharpened the pencil like this. I was in 3rd grade. But that type of control, the whole thing about knife safety is the control. You always want to cut away from you, and there are going to be some techniques which cut toward you. It's just going to be the logical thing, but you never do it where you're going to be hit. You tuck your elbows in, so when I'm pulling upward this way, that knife can't jump and bite me. The wrist is too short, see? I put it out here on the outside and pull to me. Because of that, you don't cut toward yourself. except for fine detail, and that's a very controlled, much more advanced later on when you got some experience. But the number one is this: keep the knife out of this area. Likewise, in knife safety, having a sheath and a cross draw up here on the appendix in front can be bad. If you're one of them that likes to move in a hurry, that could be bad. Because if you bring the knife up and think you got it in the sheath and you don't, and you go to shove that thing home, you can stick yourself in the belly now, can't you? Or into the thigh. So I prefer an outside hanging down sheath. I do carry occasionally what I call Cheyenne style up there, but I always make a point of bringing my hand down, grabbing a hold of the sheath, and then guiding the knife in. Never be in a hurry to put up or pull a knife. The samurai practiced this speed draw technique, and they would bring back and put the edge up. They would put the back of the sword on their hand and slide it forward to the protective pocket to put it into the sheath. They practiced resheathing that long razor sharp blade for a reason, because it was too easy doing this to stick themselves. So they'd put it like that, draw it, line it, and slide it in. Now we don't carry anything that big, but the technique still applies. Always be exactly sure where your knife is going. If you suddenly meet resistance, like you've got a leather sheath and I go to slide that thing in and suddenly it binds up, stop. Do not bear down and shove it on in, because it could slice out and go into you. A good friend of mine had a Kydex sheath, and that Kydex had a whole lot of tension where he'd have to grab it and bear down and it'd be like pop and the blade would come out. And I told him it was too much tension on it. No, I don't want to lose my knife. I don't want to lose my knife. Well, it was raining. He was up under his tarp shelter. He's sitting on the ground cross-legged like this. He reached over and he grabbed it, and he had to bear down. Whenever he yanked and it came out, he hooked his arm, because he did like that, and when it came out, it was so much tension, he had to pop like that. It laid open his forearm. 11 stitches. A knife should slide in easily, slide out easily, and have enough retention so if I turn the sheath upside down, it does not fall out. I do not want a sheath that I have to beat the knife into or have to tug that hard to get it out, unless it's in certain circumstances. If I'm whitewater rafting, yes, I want a knife for that kind of retention. But better yet, how about I protect the knife somehow than leaving it out there to get banged up or hooked on a rock or whatever. It might pin me underneath a canoe or upturned canoe or something, where straps or something might get between me and that knife sheath and lock me to something underwater. So it'd be far better to put that knife in a different position now, wouldn't it? Thinking about safety is always, always important. Now, I've got 50 plus years experience with a knife, with a pocket knife, with a big knife. I could still screw up. I'm human. So can you. But only when we think about it and address that issue of being safe. Because I don't want to lose you to something stupid, like going to cut a piece of string and it's snapping through and you hitting your thigh. I've seen that. Where guys go to cut paracord like this, and when it snaps, it could hit that thigh. Cut it out here. Pop away from you. Always, always, always protect yourself. You're important. We want you to be around a long time. I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. If so, please hit that like button before you go. And please leave any questions or comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.